25 reasons why people don't want to go to church. People no longer want to go to church, and here are 25 reasons why. Religion is great for those who need it, but it is a little restrictive. Welcome to my channel God Scare Jesus. This video is only for you support with shares, likes. No one wants to be judged. Sure, hearing about how virtuous and pious people live sounds threatening to those who aren't living by the scripture, but this is more of an excuse than a fact that speaks of a persecution complex. The belief that the church only preaches about hell and damnation. There's more to the average sermon than this. But yes, hearing about how one will suffer if they don't follow a certain mindset or life path is kind of irritating when it's given over and over. There's a large amount of hypocrisy involved. The truth is that no one in the church is perfect, but they're trying to live well. Getting hung up on an idea like this is too easy, and quite frankly it's low-hanging fruit that too many people reach for when making an argument. There's a lack of trust in spiritual leaders. This is tough to get away from when too many spiritual leaders over the years have been exposed to various issues. Sure, they're human, but holding them to a higher standard isn't just fair. It's something many of them have preached about. Many people don't practice what they preach. The whole do as I say not as I do concept is very real, but in religion, it's extremely hypocritical. Yes, again, we're all human, but if you're telling a congregation to live one way and then commit the same sins you preach against, well, your podium deserves to crumble a bit. Organized religion is very restrictive. There are plenty of arguments about this, and many make a lot of sense. But the truth is that any religion that tells you the way to happiness, and that other ways are not acceptable, is restrictive and, in a lot of ways, untenable in the long term. Religion has changed. Well, duh, things change all the time. But when the overall tenets that created the religion change, it's time to wonder if following said religion is a good idea or just a long-running fad that people still doggedly believe is worthwhile. They don't do as much as they claim for their community. Many churches do a lot, so this is hard to justify, but too many of them make a show of this and don't do everything they promise. A lack of connection with God. This is a personal thing and is more of an excuse not to go to church. In many churches, the general idea is to give people the freedom to come to God. The numbers mean more than the message. There's truth to this since the number of parishioners does matter. If there aren't any people, a church's purpose still exists, but is far less secure than bigger churches with more followers. They need to get down off their high horse. Some churches hold a very holier-than-thou attitude that drives people away. It's almost like a high school clique that people want to belong to. People don't want to go. That's the long and short of it. People just don't want to go to church for their own reasons. It's disingenuous. The sincerity of the church is always in doubt, since it relies heavily on the goodwill and following of others. Stating that they care about every parishioner equally is often false. People can't find the right church. This is a matter of personal taste, since finding the right church is all about paying attention to your own sensibilities. Apart from that, the right church is another excuse that makes little to no sense. It feels confining. The best way to not feel confined is to not go. That sounds horrible, but it also sounds like a way to avoid this conflict. Bigger churches feel impersonal. Mega churches do feel kind of impersonal since there's no way that a pastor can possibly get to know every person they preach to. Some people don't mind this, while others find that it's more like getting a lecture from an overpaid professor. People are unsure about exposing their children to church. Some reasons make no sense, but many people don't want to force religion on their children. It could be a positive experience, but some are still hesitant. It has become political in many ways. There's so much to say about this that saying nothing feels safer. Religion and politics are better kept apart, but it's challenging for many people to do so. Church feels more like a dog and pony show. Many times it feels more likely that people act one way in church and another when they leave. No one's perfect, but putting on an act for one day of the week is a bit sad. Following community guidelines is not amenable to some. Nothing is. If one attends church, it's not much different than visiting any other public spot. There are rules, and following them is smart, if not always required. Differentiating from religion and cult behavior is tough for some. To some, religious groups are cults, no matter what is said. But the truth is that cults don't often give people the freedom to come and go as they like. The church is harmful to some. There has been harm done in the past to many people in the name of religion. These days it's rare by comparison, but it does still happen. Many church members only ask for money. In some cases, the church asks because it does require funding to run a church. In other cases, well, pastors and their fellow clergy learn how to play the game and fool everyone else into making them rich. Church is boring. That's a personal opinion, honestly, but in some cases, it's true since religion isn't always as dynamic as some claim.